All right, chat. Welcome back. Picking up right where we left off in the TryHackMe room with cryptography, one of my favorite subjects. We'll be covering the intro to cryptography room. By far, one of the most fun things in cybersecurity. I like it because it helps you think about security, encryption, and the fun ways that you can encrypt and decrypt things. People have different ideas and different ways around things. Uh, Sorry if I sound a little different. I'm still under the weather, but I'm here for you guys. We're going to stream today. We're going to see how far we can get in the TryHackMe room. Feel free to pop any questions in the chat. Let me know what you guys are thinking. If you want me to review something, let me know. That being said, I think you can go ahead and get started. As a heads up, feel free to follow me. Soon I'll be publishing a schedule so we can have more consistent stream days and not just random one-offs. Also follow me on Twitter. That's where I'll be posting a lot of updates and notifications about going live. So without further ado, let's hop into it. All right. The purpose of this room is to introduce users to basic cryptography concepts such as symmetric encryption, asymmetric encryption, Diffie-Hellman key exchange, hashing, and PKI. Let's see, PKI. What was that one again? Public key infrastructure. So we'll start off with the idea. You want to send a message that no one can understand except the intended recipient. How do we do that? Well, there's a bunch of ways, starting with the easiest and oldest, the Caesar cipher, used more than 2,000 years ago. Caesar cipher is just the alphabet and your encryption alphabet shifted. So here in the example, you have for the letter A, you put a D. For the letter B, you put an E. Letter C, you put an F, and you get the idea. So if you want the message to be bed, you put BED. So that's EHG. And then to decipher it, they would have to know how far you shifted the alphabet to be able to reverse it. So EHG, and then they can decipher bed. So using the same key to encrypt TryHackMe, we get web. So the Caesar cipher that we have described above can use a key between 1 and 25 with the key of 1, each letter position where A becomes B, Z becomes A. So think of it like in a circle. So considering the case where we have intercepted a message encrypted using the Caesar cipher, we have this encrypted message. We are asked to decrypt it without the knowledge of the key. So we're going to use brute force. Basically, we'll just be trying each shift of the alphabet until something looks right. So if you see in the example here about key 5, this is Alpha Bravo contacting Tango Hotel Mike. So I think that's the answer there. There we go. So brute force is just how many times, if we know what the probable encryption method is, how many times do we have to run through it to get an answer that looks right? So Caesar cipher is considered a substitution cipher because each letter in the alphabet is substituted with another. Another type of cipher is called a transposition cipher, which encrypts the message by changing the order of the letters. Consider a simple transposition cipher in the following figure below. So we have, this is Alpha Bravo contacting Tango Hotel Mike, and the key is 42351. So we separate it all by columns, and you can see this is Alpha Bravo contacting Tango Hotel Mike. So we reorder these columns into the proper key. So it's 42351, and it's a little harder to decipher. Now, especially when you repeat the ciphertext horizontally. So this task introduced a simple substitution transposition cipher and applied to the messages made alphabetic characters for the encryption algorithm to be considered secure. Should be infeasible to recover the original message, i.e. plain text. So from here on out, we'll be calling this plain text our original message, and this ciphertext our encrypted message. So we need a hard problem that cannot be solved in polynomial time. A problem that can be solved in polynomial time is a problem that's feasible to solve even for a large input, although it might take the computer quite some time to finish. So if the encrypted message can be broken in 1 week, the encryption would be considered insecure. However, if it takes 1,000,000 years, you can practically say it's secure. No one's got that kind of time in their hands. So consider the monoalphabetic substitution cipher where each letter is mapped to a new letter. For example, in English, you would map A to 1 and to one of the 26 English letters. Then you would map B to one of the remaining 25 letters, and C to 24, and so on and so forth. All right. So this algorithm might look very secure, especially since trying all the possible keys is not feasible. However, different techniques can be used to break the ciphertext. So this is what we sort of got into last week, where the most common letters in the English language are E, T, and A, and that appears 13%, 9%, and 8% respectively. Also, common first letters of words are T, A, and O. They appear 16%, 11, and 7.6%. Add that to the fact that most of the messages words are dictionary words, and you'll be able to break the encrypted cipher text with the alphabetic substitution cipher in no time. So here we have a quit. We'll be using this for the next puzzle. So you have received the following encrypted message. Can you guess that it is a quote and who said it? All right. So we'll go ahead and guess this quote. See if we can solve. And immediately we get a bunch of results. Tacos and bridles of bells, whatever. No, but this is probably our best bet. Today is victory over yourself of yesterday. Tomorrow is your victory over lesser men. By Miyamoto Musashi. God, I hope I'm saying that right. So we guessed that, and we're correct. Now we can move on to symmetric encryption. So reviewing the terminology, well, let me take a pause, see. Everyone following along? Any questions? Feel like I'm teaching a class. All right. So, cryptographic algorithm, or cipher. This is the algorithm that defines the encryption and decryption process. An encryption decryption process. So you take your plain text, you go in one way, you get the ciphertext, and then you take the ciphertext, you reverse it and decrypt it to get your plain text. So it's the same algorithm, just one way or reverse. You have the key, which is the cryptographic algorithm needs a key to convert the plain text into ciphertext and vice versa. Plain text is our original message, and ciphertext is the encrypted message form. So, symmetric encryption algorithm uses the same keys for encryption and decryption. Consequently, the communication parties need to agree on the secret key before being able to exchange any messages. In the following figure, the sender provides the encrypted key process, and plain text is ciphertext, blah, blah, blah. So like I said, send to the plain text into the encryption algorithm with the agreed key, you get the ciphertext. They get the ciphertext, they reverse the encryption, so it's decrypting with the key that's been agreed upon, and they get the plain text. So the National Institute of Standard and Technology, NIST, published the Data Encryption Standard in 1977. DES is a symmetric encryption algorithm that uses the key sizes of 56 bits in 1997. Excuse me. In 1997, a challenge to break the message encrypted using DES was solved. Consequently, it was demonstrated that it had become feasible to use brute force search to find a key and break the message encrypted using DES. In 1998, a DES key was broken in 56 hours. These cases indicate that DES is no longer to be considered secure. So you'll see this a lot with encryption algorithms. They'll have challenges to be like, hey, try and break me. I believe the NSA has a handful of secret encryption. What's the term I'm looking for? Encryption exercises for people to try and solve. And I think the closest people have gotten is like 3 out of 5 have been solved so far. So NIST published the Advanced Encryption Standard, AES, in 2001. It's like DES, but it uses bigger key sizes of 128, 192, or 256. You'll see 256 a lot for AES nowadays. So this is where it's going to get a little confusing, guys. So we have the sub-byte state. This transformation looks up each byte in a given substitution table, or S box, and substitutes it with the respective value. The state is 16 bytes, i.e. 128 bits, saved in a 4x4 array. The shift rows using the state. The second row is shifted by 1 place. The third row is shifted by 2 places. And the fourth row is shifted by 3 places. And is shown in the figure below. Oh, man, I got to stop doing that. So we have 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. So everything's shifted, so it's 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3. The mixed columns, each column is multiplied by a fixed matrix 4x4 array. Add round key. A round key is added to the state using XOR operation. Okay, the total number of transformation depends on the size of the key. Don't worry if you find this cryptic, because it is. That's the whole point of cryptography. Using so much math that it gets way too confusing, but is repeatable. Our purpose is not to learn the details of how AES works, nor implement it as a programming library. Thank God. The purpose is to appreciate the difference in complexity between the ancient encryption algorithm and modern ones. If you're curious to dive into the details, we can check out the AES specifications, including pseudocode and examples, blah, 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 blah. If you guys are interested, maybe I'll do a follow-up stream getting into AES. Feel free to leave a comment below or type in chat. So in addition to AES, there's other symmetric encryption algorithms that are considered secure. Here's a list of them. So we have AES with the different size of the keys. We have IDEA, International Data Encryption Algorithm, Triple DES, based on DES. 3DS will be deprecated in 2023 and disallowed in 2024. So we can ignore that one now. Cast 5, Blowfish, 2Fish, Camilla 128, 192, and 256. Designed by Mitsubishi Electric and NTT in Japan. The name is derived from the flower. Oh, there's something new every day. All the algorithms mentioned so far are block cipher symmetric encryption algorithms. Okay, this is very key to keep in mind. Block cipher symmetric. A block cipher algorithm converts the input, or plaintext, into a block and encrypts each block. A block usually is 128 bits. Figure below, we want to encrypt the plaintext Tango Hotel Mike, a total of 16 characters. The first step is to represent it in binary. If we use ASCII to T, hexadecimal, A, and so on, blah, 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 blah. Block 128 bits is practically 16 bytes and represented in a 4x4 array. The 128-bit block is fed as one unit to the encryption method. So here's our hex of Tango Hotel Mike. Input into this block. You can see that it fills out the block perfectly. And then we use our encryption. So we have 54, 20, 4C, and 45. We get our ciphertext, EB C2 033F. The other type of symmetric encryption algorithm is stream ciphers, which encrypt the plaintext byte by byte. Consider a case where we want to encrypt the message Tango Hotel Mike. Each character needs to be converted to its binary representation. If we use ASCII, if we use ASCII in the hexadecimal, while A is blah, 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 and so on, we already know that. So streaming, we can just keep increasing this plain text. And if it gets interrupted, that's all right. Most of the algorithm went through. With block, you have to have it predetermined. You can't add or subtract before encrypting. So symmetric encryption solves many security problems in the security principles room. Say that Alice and Bob, oh boy, Alice and Bob, you'll hear about these two a lot when dealing with cryptography. It's always the example of sender and receiver and vice versa. So Alice and Bob chose an algorithm to encrypt. They agreed upon a specific key. We assume that the selected encryption algorithm is secure and the secret key is kept safe. Let's take a look at what we can achieve. We have our CIA here, confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity. If Eve intercepted the encryption, we wouldn't be allowed to recover the plain text. Consequently, all messages exchanged between Alice and Bob are confidential as long as they are sent encrypted. So if Eve intercepted the encrypted message, she wouldn't be able to recover the plain text because she doesn't have the key. Integrity. When Bob receives an encrypted message and decrypts it successfully using the key they agreed upon, Bob can be sure no one could tamper with the message across the channel. So if the message comes back, he's able to decrypt it with the key that they agreed upon. It looks good. You can assume that no one was able to alter or mess with the message. Any minor modification to the ciphertext would prevent successful decryption. Authenticity. Being able to decrypt the ciphertext using the secret key also proves that it's an authentic message between Alice and Bob because they're the only two that know the secret key. All right. And we're just getting started. Oh boy, buckle up. So, how to maintain confidentiality? Check the integrity and ensure that the authenticity of the exchanged messages. More practical and efficient approaches will be present in later tasks. The question for now is whether this is scalable. So with Alice and Bob, we needed one key. If Alice, Bob, and Charlie need to communicate, we need 3 keys. One for Alice and Bob, another for Alice and Charlie, and a third for Bob and Charlie. However, the number of keys grows quickly. Communication between 100 users requires almost 5,000 different secret keys. If you're curious about the mathematics behind it, that's 99 plus 98 plus 97 plus repeating all the way down to 1 equals 4,950. So maybe I'll pull up some. Guess we can use print. And then read. Paint's not looking. What is it? Nope. All right, this is one of my favorite sites to use. It's very easy to make simple diagrams. So let's see. So what this is saying is if Alice, we got Bob. They both agree on the key. Sure. That's been determined previously. But once you start adding more people, then it just continues to get a little more confusing. Because now we have from Alice to Charlie, and then we have Charlie to Bob, and these connections each need their own key. In order to have a coherent back and forth. Because like we said, you can go one way, you can go the other way, as long as you have the keys in between. So as long as you keep adding more people, that's increasing the number of keys based on how many people you already previously had. Make sense? All right. So if one system gets compromised, they need to create new keys to be used with the other 99 users. Another problem would be finding a secure channel to exchange the keys with all the other users. Obviously, this quickly grows out of hand. In this next task, we'll cover asymmetric encryption. And one of the problems solved with asymmetric encryption is when 100 users only need to share a total of 100 keys. As explained earlier, symmetric encryption would require 5,000 keys for those 100 users. All right. So instead of the 5,000 keys, we'll be using asymmetric encryption. So we don't need 5,000. There are many programs available for symmetric encryption. We'll focus on two: GNU Privacy Guard and OpenSSL project. So for the GNU Privacy Guard, also GNU PG or GPG, implemented in the OpenPGP standard. You might be able to recognize some of these commands if you use GitHub and have had to create a key so you can upload and download your repos. So here, GPG, Symmetric, Cipher algorithm, Cipher, and our message.txt, where Cipher is the name of the encryption algorithm that we'll be using. You can check the supported ciphers with that. Default output, binary format. However, if you prefer the ASCII armored output, which can be opened in a text editor, add the --arma. Okay. And then you can use this command to decrypt the message. With OpenSSL, here we have our AES 256 cipher block. Will be -E to encrypt. Input will be our message.txt, and our output will be our encrypted message. Then to reverse it, we can just use decrypt with our AES 256 cipher block. -D for decrypt. Our in file will be our encrypted message. Our out will be the original message. Follow me so far? Good. I'm pretty sure I got the sound alert, so. To make the encryption more secure and more resilient against the brute force, we can add this, which is a password-based key derivation function 2. Moreover, we can specify the number of iterations on the password to derive the encryption key using the iter flag. To iterate 10,000 times, we just have -iter 1,000, 10,000. Consequently, the decryption command also needs to iterate through 10,000 times. All right. So in the necessary files for this task are located under root rooms cryptography task 2. The zip file attached to this task can tackle in questions 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Oh boy. All right. So it looks like we'll be downloading some files and decrypting. And upload this to my profile. Home, there, documents. Right. Just extracting the files needed. Copy that into a code. And make sure that you guys can see. So hide Chrome. Share our code. Code will be this. There we go. All right. Now that you guys can see, our first question was, how about we grab all the questions? Post that here. Okay. So decrypt the file quote 01 encrypted using AES 256 with the key using GPG. This is the third word in the file. So we want to do task 2. Quote 1. Obviously, that's not going to show us. So we can do CD into task this. Task 02. Okay, so here we have our files. And we're going to want to use the command of the GPG. I'm just going to paste the example that was given to us here. So now we can change this to be AS 256. Our key. Oh, wait, this is to encrypt something. We want to be able to decrypt. So this is our decrypt message. We want to decrypt the quote. Which one is it? 01. GPG, output as original message. So now we can enter this phrase into our terminal. And now, our original message, do not waste time idling or thinking after you have set your goals. Miyamoto Musashi. I think we're going to see that name come up a few times. So we'll go ahead and try that. What's the third word in the file? That's 1, 2, 3. Waste. So we'll go back to this. We'll just hold our answers here. And it looks like that's going to match up exactly, which is great. So now we can move on to our second question. Decrypt the file quote02 using AES-256 with the key using OpenSSL. What is the third word in this file? So now we're going to want to switch back to the OpenSSL, decrypt, and I'll show an example of what that is. Also, I think it might be good for you guys to just see what the encrypted looks like. That's what it looks like. A bunch of gibberish. So here's our decryption command. So we'll do original message quote 2. And our encrypted message here will be quote 2. We want to use the 256 CBC, and we have our key here. So let's see. So now we enter our password. And now if we view this, let's see, what did we miss? Decrypt quote 2 encrypted using the key with OpenSSL. There's a third word. So maybe if we chat our here we go. I don't know why it wasn't just showing up. The true science of martial arts means practicing them in such a way that they will be useful at any time, and then teach them in such a way that they will be useful in all things. Miyamoto Musashi. So the third word, the true science. Let's see if that fits. Perfect. All right. Now to decrypt the third one. Decrypt file quote 03 encrypted using the Camilla 256 with the key here using GPG. This is the third one in the file. So if we go back, here's our GPG. We want to change this to quote 3. You want our output to be quote 03. Now, we can't use this exactly because we have to make sure we specify the Camilla 256. And looking back, in order to specify that, do we have to specify? Let's see. All right, looks like it decrypted, so we can just cat on original quote 3. You must understand that there is more than one path to the top of the mountain. There's the third word. 1, 2, 3, understand. All right, so our answers are waste, science, and understand. let's go ahead and go back to our TryHackMe. See that. There we go. Waste. Got it. Science. Boom. Whoop, whoop. We got it. Piece of cake. Moving on to asymmetric encryption. So the symmetric encryption requires the users to find a secure channel to exchange the keys. Those keys that we discussed earlier. By a secure channel, we are mainly concerned with confidentiality and integrity. In other words, we need a channel where no third party can eavesdrop and read the traffic. Moreover, no one can change the sent message and data. So one of the attacks that's possible with this is called a man in the middle, where if we have Alice and we have Bob, and they're trying to change keys, if you put Charlie in the middle and says, oh yeah, this is his key, and oh yeah, this is her key, and you make sure that all the messages go between you, you have access to both of these people's plain text, as long as you keep routing everything through your specific encryption. But we'll get into that later, I'm sure. Asymmetric encryption makes it possible to exchange the messages with a secure channel. Okay. When asymmetric encryption algorithms, we would generate a key pair, a public and a private key. The public key is shared with the world, or more specifically, with the people who want to communicate with us securely. The private key must be saved securely and must never let anyone access it. Moreover, it's not feasible to derive the private key despite the knowledge of the public key. So how does this work? If the message is encrypted with one key, it can be decrypted with the other key. In other words, if Alice encrypts the message using Bob's public key, it can be decrypted only using Bob's private key. Reversely, if Bob encrypts a message using his private key, it can only be decrypted using Bob's public key. Thanks, Bob. All right. Reversely, if Bob encrypts a message using his private key, it can only be decrypted using his public key. So let's see if we can draw this out and get rid of Charlie. We have two keys. So Bob generates these two keys. He's got a public key and a private key. He puts the public key out on the web for anyone that wants to talk to him. Alice wants to talk to him, so she gets a copy of the public key. Well, I guess the diagrams here will probably do it better. So Alice puts in the plaintext using Bob's public key and creates a ciphertext. That ciphertext can only be decrypted by Bob's private key. So then he can read what message Alice has sent. So when Bob wants to reply to Alice, he can encrypt his message using Alice's public key, and Alice can decrypt using her private key. So that way, Bob doesn't have Alice's private key, and Alice doesn't have Bob's private key. Make sense? All right. So integrity, authenticity, and non-repudiation. Beyond confidentiality, asymmetric encryption can solve integrity, authenticity, and non-repudiation. Let's say Bob wants to make a statement and wants everybody to be able to confirm that this statement indeed came from him. Bob needs to encrypt the message using his private key, and the recipients can decrypt it using Bob's public key. If the message decrypts successfully with Bob's public key, it means that the message was encrypted using Bob's private key. In practice, he would encrypt the hash of the original message, and we'll get to that later. So, being decrypted successfully using Bob's public key leads to a few interesting conclusions. First, we know it wasn't altered on the way. We know that it came from him. We know no one has access to Bob's private key except for Bob. We can be sure that the message did indeed come from him, proving that it is authentic. And finally, because no one other than Bob has access to his private key, Bob cannot deny sending this message. So, non-repudiation. We have seen how asymmetric encryption can help establish confidentiality, integrity, and authenticity, and non-repudiation in real-life scenarios. So, uh, it can be relatively slow, especially with large files and vast amounts of data. Uh, so that's where other encryption algorithms might come in handy. So we can actually join the asymmetric with the symmetric encryption to achieve these security objectives relatively faster. So RSA, I'm sure people have heard about this a few times. RSA got its name from its inventor, Rivet Shamir and Adelman. Works in the following way. Oh boy, here comes math. So we choose two random prime numbers, P and Q. Calculate N, which is P times Q. Choose the two integers E and D, such that E times D, oh boy, a lot of weird math. This step will help us generate the public key and the private key. So we have NE and ND. So basically we're doing math to generate these prime numbers that will be our public key and our private key. The sender can encrypt the value X by calculating Y equals X to the power E mod N. And then the recipient can decrypt Y by calculating X equals Y to the power D mod N. Note that Y to the power D is equal to X E mod ED, which is, yeah, we're really getting into the weeds here. This step explains why we put a restriction on the choice of E and D. Don't worry if it doesn't make sense. It's just math. It's just math. It's simple. So RSA relies on factorization of a hard problem. Make it easy to multiply P by Q. However, it's time consuming to find P and Q given N. Moreover, for this to be secure, P and Q need to be pretty big numbers. For example, each being 1024 bits. That's a number more than 300 digits. All right, I think we can move along. So Bob chooses the two prime numbers, 157, 199, calculates 31,243. With this equation, we do that, minus that, plus 1, and we get 30,888. He selects 163 and 379, where E and D multiply, mod, and then mod the number that we just calculated equals 1. So there's our public key and our private key. So then we can encrypt. And then you can decrypt. Like I said, I'm not going to get too far into the math, but if you guys want a deeper dive, please feel free to let me know. The math behind it's really interesting, and we can work through and actually manually show what's going on. So we executed the three commands. So we're generating an RSA out. You create a private key, .pem 2048 with the OpenSSL, generate the private keys out, save as a private key. We add 2048 to specify the key size of 2048 bits. Then RSA in, private key, public out key. We specify the algorithm RSA, specify that we want to get the public key, finally the private key using the in, and save the output. All right. We already have the recipient's public key. We can encrypt it with the command open public key utility, encrypt the in plain text and output the ciphertext. Input the key, public key.pen, and public key in. The recipient can decrypt it using the command public key decrypt in with the ciphertext, in with the private key, out with the decrypted text. Okay. Hopefully you guys follow that. Let's go ahead and move on to this next bit of questions. We'll open up our text file. Switch back over. There we go. All right. So for the first question, you can find the directory for this located at Cryptography Intro Task 3. Task 2, you can work in the other shoot. So we'll be doing it on our shoots. Move up a directory, change directory into task 3. List the files. So we have cipher, text message. We have our private key Bob, our public key Alice, and our public key Bob. So Bob has received a file ciphertext message sent to him from Alice. When you find the key you need in the same folder, you can find the key you need in the same folder. What is the first word of the original plaintext? So Bob has received the file cipher message sent to him from Alice. So we need to use Alice's public key, assuming that she used your private key for the cipher message. Makes sense? Makes sense to me. So in order to decrypt, we'll want to use this command that is given in the example. So we'll have decrypted text. We have the in key should be the public key, I believe. Let me just review. We already have the recipient's public key. We can encrypt the message. The recipient can then decrypt the command. All right. I'm still pretty confident. I got to specify the cipher message as the input, or for the initialize content. Let's see. What are we missing? Bob has received the file ciphertext message sent to him from Alice. They find the key you need in the same folder. This is the first word of the plaintext. I don't know why, but we're going to try this decipher with our private key. Just sort of throwing it at the wall here. But there we go. So we used our private key of Bob Oh, because she used our public key to encrypt the message. I see. So perception is strong and insight weak. And strategy is important to see distant things as if they were close and to take distant view of close things. Hmm. So what was it? Was the first word of the original plain text? Perception. Go ahead and add that to our list. So take a look at Bob's private RSA. What is the last byte of P? Oh boy. Okay. Look at Bob's private RSA was the last byte of Q. So now we'll be using commands to look specifically at Bob's private key. D. So we want to use the command OpenSSL RSA in with the private key and text the out. The values of P, Q, N, E, and D are prime 1, 2, modulus, public exponent, and private exponent, respectively. All right, I'll explain that in 1 second. Let's see here. Make it a little cleaner for you guys. So this is the command we'll be using. So we have OpenSSL RSA input our private key, which was private key from Bob. We want the text and no out. So here is our private key of Bob. And the way that this works is that P, Q, N, and E, and D. We'll back up this. Make a new line so we can follow along. So we have P, Q, N, E, and D. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Prime 1, prime 2, modulus, public, and private. So define P, that's going to be our prime 1, and it's the last byte. So we have public exponent, prime 1, last byte, E7. That's what I believe. And then we have to find the last byte of Q, which will be our prime 2. So prime 2 is 27. And with those answers, I think we're good to go. So let me go ahead and bring that back up for you guys. And hop back over to TryHackMe. Perception. Got it. Knew we would. No doubt, no doubt. And that's E7 and 27. Let's try it. E7. Got it. And finally, 27. Boom. Cryptography ain't that hard. It's just math. It's just math. A lot of math, but it's just math. All right. We're on task 4 out of 9. I think we can keep chugging along. We're about halfway done. Alice and Bob can communicate over an insecure channel. By insecure, we mean that there are eavesdroppers who can read their messages and exchange on this channel. How can Alice and Bob agree on a secret key in such a setting? One way would be using the Diffie-Hellman key exchange. Diffie-Hellman is an asymmetric encryption algorithm that allows the exchange of secrets over a public channel. We'll skip to the modular arithmetic background and provide a simple numeric example, because that will make it easier. Alice and Bob agree on Q and G. All right, hold on. We'll need 2 mathematical operations: power modulus, x to the power p, x raised to the power p, X is multiplied by itself p times. Furthermore, x mod m, x modulus m is the remainder of the division of x by m. Okay? So Alice and Bob agree Q and G. For this to work, Q should be the prime number and G is a number smaller than Q that satisfies a certain condition. In the arithmetic, G is a generator. So in this example, we take Q as 29 and G as 3. Alice chooses a random number A smaller than Q, calculates A equals G to the power of A mod Q. The number A must be kept secret. However, A is sent to Bob. Let's say that Alice picks a number A13, calculates 3, 13, mod 29, 19, sends it to Bob. So basically, this is just doing very clever math. So they each get the same number at the end. So Bob knows that the number is 10 and Alice knows that the number is 10. So they agree on something. She does some math with the secret number. He does some math with another secret number. Using their own secret numbers, they're able to get to the same answer. That's a very high level of looking at this. Again, if you want to get into it, I'm more than happy to. But for now, let's just leave it at that. There's a great example I learned a while ago where it's like you have two paint buckets and you have one is your secret paint color and one is a paint color you don't care. So you send the paint color you don't care over to Bob. Bob takes that paint color, mixes in his secret color, sends it back. You mix in your secret color, and then you send it back, and he's able to remove his secret color. So now you both have the same color on each side. That helped me understand it a little bit better. It's basically, like I said, doing very special math to get to the same answer. So, although the numbers we have chosen make it easier to find A and B, even without using a computer, real world examples select Q and 256 bits in length. So let's take a look at the actual Diffie-Hellman parameters. We can use the OpenSSL to generate them. You need to specify the option Diffie-Hellman parameters to indicate that we want to generate Diffie-Hellman parameters. All right, makes sense. 2048, 4096. In the console output, we can view the prime numbers P and the generator G with the command open. There we go. This is similar to what we did with the RSA keys. So open, output. So now we're able to see P and G. Diffie-Hellman key exchange algorithm allows two parties to agree on a secret over an insecure network. However, the discussed key exchange is prone to a man-in-the-middle attack. That's what I was mentioning earlier. If somebody is able to grab both sides and continue the conversation between both, that's called a man-in-the-middle attack. Let's see if we can quickly. So we have bad guy Charlie. And basically, if he's able to grab the message from Alice before it gets to Bob, he can then also use it to send it back to Alice. So by having him in the middle, you can think that it's secure, but basically he's just in the way pretending to be the other person as he's changing messages in between using his own algorithm, his own private keys. If that makes sense. Basically, think of it like if the mailman was opening your letters and sending it back to you and being able to read them in between transfers. All right. On to the next one. Go ahead and bring up our code. There we go. Okay, you can find a directory, task 4. So here's our Diffie-Hellman parameter. Let's go ahead and use that command we saw earlier and open it up. And that should help us answer the questions. So here's the command we saw earlier. A set of Diffie-Hellman parameters can be found in the file dhparam.pem. What is the size of the prime number in bits? There we go. So we have 4096 as the first one. What is the prime number's last byte, least significant byte? So I believe that's here. And I think that's 4F. That's it? Only those two? All right, let's give it a shot. So 4096 and 4F. Got it. Boom. We are just cruising. Hashing. All right. Very, very important topic here. And hashing is different than encoding. You can think of encoding as, what's the word? Reversible. Hashing isn't reversible. So let's continue. Cryptographic hash function is an algorithm that takes in the data of an arbitrary size and as its input and returns a fixed size value. So you can send it as big of a file and as many bytes as you want, and you'll get the same amount right back. So here in the example, you can see that here's a hash for abc.txt. Here's another hash for this zip file and another hash for Windows 11. So these hashes, if you change one single bit, changes the entire hash output. So why do we need such a function? This helps. So in storing passwords, instead of storing the password in plain text, we can take a hash of the password. And if somebody is able to break in, get the list of passwords, all they have are the hashes. Now, in practice, these are also salted, which means they just add a little extra into each bit. So you can't use the hashed password to get into somebody's account. Now, detecting the modifications, like I said, any minor modification to the original file will drastically change the hash value. This is the hash value. So if abc.txt, let's say you add the letter A inside that text file, this whole thing here changes. So in the following terminal output, we have two files, text1, text2. They're mostly almost identical, except for literally one bit in the beginning. The letters T and T are different in one bit in their ASCII representation. Even though we flipped only a single bit, evidence of the SHA-256 checksums are entirely different. Consequently, if we secure a hash function algorithm, we can easily confirm whether the modifications have taken place. So even though they're like the same file, their hashes are completely different. So this is Some of the hashing algorithms are still considered secure. SHA-224, SHA-256, very easy. You'll see a lot of people just use that one by default. SHA-384 and SHA-512. So also RIPE MD-160. Some older functions, MD5 and SHA-1, are cryptographically broken. And by broken, it's possible to generate different files with the same checksums that are given in the file. So that's called a hash collision. So you're able to actually generate that same hash, even if it's a different word. And you'll see that that's used in a lot of brute force attacks when it comes to passwords. If they're not using a good hashing algorithm, and the attacker is able to get the hash of what the password is, they can try different words and combinations until they get the proper hash back up. We'll get into that later. So the hash-based method authentication code, HMAC, is a message authentication code and uses cryptographic key in addition to the hash function. So we have our secret key, our inner pad, which is a constant string, uses byte 036 repeated B times, and the value of B depends on the chosen hash function. And our outer pad, constant string, 5C repeated B times. So calculating this, we append zeros to the key to make it the length of B, to make it the length match the iPad, the inner pad. Bitwise XOR, and then we XOR the output from step 2. We apply the hash function, resulting stream of bytes. We XOR again, calculating the key. We append the hash, step 4, and XOR. And we apply the hash functions, resulting in the stream bytes to get HMAC. So we have our key and our message, and the hash function. Our key, our hash, and then we have our hash function. So the figure above represents the step expressed follow the formula. To calculate the HMAC on Linux, we can use any of the available tools, HMAC 256, secret key added with the -- key option. Below is an example. So we have HMAC message. We're able to see that. So can you find the directory? Check 2. All right, this looks like a little more complicated. Hope you guys are ready. So change our directory. We want to go into probably task 05, ls. So we have our order.json, order.txt, order2.json. Let's go ahead and open those up and see what they look like. So these are, it looks like it's just examples of, what a API or a program would be using to try and get information on order. So we have Alice sending to Mallory $9,000 for a weekly payment. So what is the SHA-256 checksum of the file order.json? Let me make sure that I'm showing my code. There we go. And we can go ahead and go back here and check that the command we want to use or so for question 1, SHA-256. Sum of the order.json. So now we have our 256 checksum. Let's see if that matches up. Perfect. So open the file order.json and change the amount from 1,000 to 9,000. It was the new checksum. So we can go ahead and change that because we know if we change the amount here, it will change the entire checksum. So go ahead and save that. Go back to here. If you just run the same program again, now our checksum is completely different. And using SHA-256, and the key there was the hmac of order.txt. So now we want to use the hmac command with our key. So it should be nope. This is what our command looks like. So the key is different and the message.text is different. It should have worked. I guess I don't have. Let's try hmac 256. That's probably. There we go. Order.txt with our key. Open dash key. All right, hold on. Hold on. Oh, it doesn't need the flag key. We just put the flag next to the hmac command. So hmac 256, our key, and then our file. There we go. Let's go ahead, paste that in. Everything looks to be matching up all right. Let's see if we're correct. Fingers crossed. So for our order.json, this is the original hash. Boom, got it. Next, we changed the value from 1,000 to 9,000. Got it again. Woo woo. All right. And finally, using the key, can we get the right hash? And again, we got it, baby. All right, on to task 6. PKI and SSL/TLS. Using a key exchange, such as the Diffie-Hellman key exchange, allows us to agree on a secret under the eyes and ears of eavesdroppers. This is that man-in-the-middle attack. This key can be used with Symmetric encryption algorithm and ensure confidential communication. However, the key exchange we described is not immune to the man-in-the-middle attack. The reason is that Alice has no way of ensuring that she is communicating with Bob, and Bob has no way of ensuring he is communicating with Alice. So like I said before, if they're trying to agree on a key and we have our malicious actor Mallory say, okay, yeah, I agree with you with this key. I agree with you with this key. Then the communication between these two is encrypted, and between these two are encrypted. They are each getting the same message back, but the man in the middle is able to understand both because they've been able to deceive both Bob and Alice that they are the respective others. So this susceptibility necessitates some mechanism that would allow us to confirm the other party's identity. This brings us to public key infrastructure, PKI. Consider the case where you are browsing a website, example.org, over HTTPS. How can you be confident that you are indeed communicating with the right server? In other words, how can you be sure that no man in the middle intercepted the packets being altered and therefore reach you? The answer lies in the website's certificate. So the figure below shows how we can get to example.org. You can see the little lock icon, which means we're using HTTPS, and time of writing example.org uses a certificate signed by DigiCert Inc. And shown in the figure, in other words, DigiCert confirms that the certificate is valid till a certain date. So this is a way to make sure, yes, you are dealing with me, you're dealing with the right server. I have a certificate to prove it. So the certificate gets signed by a certificate authority, a CA. Yep, there you go. So you generate the certificate signing request. You create a certificate, send your public key signed by a third party. You send your request to a certificate authority, a CA, and purposes for the CA to sign the certificate. The alternative is to use an insecure solution. It would be self-sign your own certificate. For this to work, the recipient would recognize and trust the CA, sign it, and as you expect, all good. You can use OpenSSL to generate certificate signing requests using this command. So we have a request, new nodes, new key, RSA with the 4096. We want our output to be key.pen and our output file to be cert.csr, which is our certificate request. Yep, there we go. Creates a new signing request, saves private key without passphrase, generates a new private key, generates the RSA key, where we save and where we save the certificate request. Once the CSR is ready, you can send it to the CA of your choice, get it signed, and you're ready to use it on your server. So once the client, the browser, receives the signed certificate of trust, the SSL TLS handshake takes place. The purpose would be to agree upon the ciphers and the secret key. This is how we're able to do this publicly, and ensuring security. We have just described how PKI applies to the web, SSL, and TLS certificates. Trusted third party is necessary for the system to be scalable. All right, the X509 indicates that we want to generate a self-signed certificate instead of a certificate request. SHA-256 specifies using that to digest. It will be valid for 1 year as we've added days 365. Answer the following question below. We'll take our certificate in task and see what we got. All right. We'll go back to our file and go ahead and pull up our code. Don't worry, guys, we're almost through it. Change our directory to task number 6. Okay, so we have our 2 questions here, and we have our certificate and our key. So with this, we're going to go ahead and put in this command, which we were given by TryHackMe. So it's reading in the certificate and should be outputting it as text. So the 2 questions we need to answer is, what is the size of the public key in bits? And what year is this certificate valid until? So we can see that we read it clearly. Go up to the top, serial number, validity, not after February 25th of 2039. So that's the year that this certificate is valid until. And what is the size of the public key in bits? Well, if we go down, see that it's 4096. So 4096 here. We can go ahead and switch over to TryHackMe and input those. And as we can see, yes, that is correct. All right. Moving on to the next section, authenticating with passwords. So let's see how cryptography can help increase password security with PKI and SSL/TLS. We can communicate with any server and provide our login credentials while ensuring no one can read our passwords as they move across the network. This example of protecting data in transit. So we'll explore some safeguards. So we have a username Alice, her password is QWERTY, Bob, Dragon, Charlie, Princess. So we take those passwords and we hash it. So this is where it comes into play where there is a vulnerability. There is things called rainbow tables out in the wild, which contains a list of passwords along with the hash values. So attackers only need to look up that hash in Google and they'll be able to find what your password is. So it would be easy to look up this hash to discover the original password of Alice. Consequently, we need to find more secure approaches. So this is where we add the salt that we talked about earlier. Adding the salt is, so we have the password of Alice, Bob, or Charlie, and we add our salt at the end of it. The salt is a randomly generated number, so each time it's different. So if you figure out the salt for Alice, you can't use it against Bob or Charlie. This is really important. And then you hash that again. So you're able to have a way more secure hash. So you already went ahead and figured out that the password is QWERTY123, but all we had to do was you're auditing a system and you discovered the MD5 hash. Remember, we talked about how that's not as secure anymore. The admin password is this. What's the original password? So we just open up a new tab, Google search that. Here we can see the MD5 hash of that was successfully reversed into the string QWERTY123. Go ahead and we can see that that was correct. Moving on. In this task, we would like to explore what happens when you log into a website over HTTPS. So the client requests the server's SSL and TLS certificate. The server sends back the certificate. The client confirms that the certificate is valid. So cryptography's role starts with checking the certificate, making sure that it's valid and that it's signed. The signing means that a hash of the certificate is encrypted with the private key of a trusted third party. The encrypted hash is appended to the certificate. So like we talked about earlier, how you need that third party to secure that initial encryption. If the third party is trusted, the client will use the third party's public key to decrypt the encrypted hash and compare it with the certificate hash. However, the third party is not recognized, the connection will not proceed automatically. So it's that trusted third party that allows us to confirm whether a site is secure or not. I believe we also talked about the ability of signing your own certificates, and that's the equivalent of Trust Me, Bro. So moving forward, once the client confirms that the cert is valid, we start the SSL TLS handshake. The handshake allows the client and server to agree upon a secret key and the symmetric encryption algorithm, along with other things. At this point forward, the related session is encrypted using this symmetric encryption. The final step would be provide login credentials. The client uses that encrypted session to send them over to the server. Server receives the username and password that they need to confirm the match. Following these guidelines, the server saves a hash version of your password after appending a random salt to it. This way, if the database gets out, you're still relatively safe. They would need to have to reverse that hash and figure out the salt and confirm that that's the right password. So we'll just go ahead and say that we understand. Let's continue. And there we go. Cryptography is a vast topic. In this room, we tried to focus on the core concepts that would help you understand commonly used terms in cryptography. This knowledge is vital to understanding the configuration options and of systems that use encryption and hashing. All right, we did it. We were able to complete the TryHackMe intro to cryptography. Now, for those that are interested, if you follow me on Twitter, I've left 2 secret messages that you will need to decrypt, and it gives you a specific task uh, and a hint about what's to come in the future for this channel. All right. Thank you guys for watching. Feel free to like and comment and follow if you enjoy this content. I'm always open to more suggestions and really looking to get engaged with you guys. So, yeah, follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. And until next time, see you later.